Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the WSU Tri-Cities Student Town Hall. My name is Robin Kovis, and I'm the ASWSU TC President. I'm also a senior studying history at WSU Tri-Cities. Thank you for joining us today. With COVID-19 and programs going virtually, things are obviously different, but we still have a variety of ways to connect and have a great academic semester. The point of this town hall is to provide resources, tips, and guidance to students for a successful virtual semester, based on feedback and comments we have heard from the students and faculty members. We want everyone to be successful, and we have taken your feedback to heart. We are also now just over a week and a half into the fall semester and wanted to check in on how students are doing. I would like to now introduce Chancellor Sandra Haynes, who will provide some opening remarks.
All right. Well, thank you, Robin, and welcome and hello, fellow Cougs. It's really wonderful to have you all here today joining us. We are virtual, you're here with us, and it's great to see you for this Academic Success Town Hall. We're just a few days, actually, really into the fall semester, and really it feels like we've already grown closer as a campus. We've learned more about ourselves as individuals, and we've tried maybe harder than ever before to make this all work for ourselves. As I am sure you are aware as well, I have never relied more, as I'm sure you have as well, I have never relied more heavily on my support systems to get me through this time, this whole pandemic. And I may have emailed IT a few times, at least 4 times over the last couple weeks to help me out. And I hope that you all know that those resources are available to you too. I can say with a great deal of confidence that our faculty and staff are committed to your success as a student. We want to keep you on track, earning your degree with a tremendous virtual academic semester and with student resources at your fingertips. We also want to make sure that you have support for your mental, emotional, physical, and whole student wellness. This means that you still have access to the Cougar Cupboard, to counseling services with our newest counselor, Sylvia Van Breda Vreisman. Oh boy, I think I did that. I think I just butchered that, but we just call her Miss Sylvia, and she is fabulous. And to other more specific resources like the Veterans Center, Career Services, Mosaic Center. Just know that your success as a Coug is our #1 priority, and we take that very seriously. With that, I'm just going to turn things back over to Robin, who will get us started with our town hall program.
Thank you, Chancellor Haynes. I would now like to introduce today's panelists. Please say hello and wave when you hear your name so we can introduce you to those on YouTube today. From Academic Affairs, we have Anna Plemons, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs.
Hi, everyone.
Next, we have Janet Peters, Associate Professor of Psychology and Director of Instructional Excellence and Innovation.
Hi, everyone.
Ellie Sweet, Associate Professor of Biology.
Hello.
Jesus Bravo, Assistant Professor of Business Management.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
And Joseph Iannelli, Professor of Mechanical Engineering.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
From Student Affairs, we have Ian Jameson, Director of Student Engagement and Leadership.
Hello.
Sylvia Van Breda Vreesman, Mental Health Counselor.
Good afternoon. Hello.
We also have the following students joining us today. Adriana Iturbe, a senior studying mechanical engineering.
Hello.
And Natalie Mendoza, a junior studying history.
Hello.
Thank you to all of our panelists who are joining us today. For today's discussion, We have taken a list of pre-submitted questions to address comments, concerns, and questions. For the students in attendance, be sure to also leave questions in the chat to your right. And you know that even though we cannot, and know that even if we cannot get them all in today, be sure that we will address most of these in an email being sent to the students tomorrow. To start with, we would like to identify a few things from the standpoint of academic affairs that are sure to provide some context and help to students as they navigate this virtual semester. With classes and programming switching to virtual methods, there are a variety of tools that are available to Tri-Cities students to help them with their academics. Dr. Plemons, can you provide a brief summary about WSU Tri-Cities switch to virtual instruction and provide a few recommendations that will help ensure our students are successful?
Thanks, Robin. I'd be happy to. Okay, so, and as you saw, there's a lot of amazing panelists here. So I just want to give a couple quick reminders and keep us moving. But as many of you know, this summer, many of our faculty went through extensive training, and I'm really pleased to see how many of our faculty are really well prepared to be operating in virtual space this fall. So, using Zoom and Panopto and other virtual tools, there was quite a bit of training on how to connect with students in virtual space and how to create online communities. So I hope that our students are seeing the fruits of that and enjoying the classroom spaces that might look different, but in many ways are absolutely still productive. So speaking of class, most of our classes do have a virtual component. That means there's something live that's happening in class every week, and we strongly encourage students to attend. I know that's complicated with work schedules and all of the different complicating factors, perhaps kids at home, but we still see that being part of a course community is a key part of any successful strategy for managing higher ed. And so we would ask that students prioritize making it to class. And then also when you're in that space, do the things that you normally would do, right? If you usually take notes in that class, go ahead and take notes, do what you can to sort of make that space productive for yourself. And also just making sure, I know when I talk to students, they said it's challenging to try to figure out how to dedicate time and dedicate space. And so to the extent that you can do that for yourself and find space and time where you can be in classroom mode, we expect that that's going to be a huge strategy for success. Ask lots of questions, right? I know in my classroom, students are using the chat function a lot, but you can raise your hand. There's a little hand raise in Zoom. There's different ways, but we absolutely want to interact with you. And when I talk to faculty, they always say, man, I wish my students would ask more questions, or I wish they'd turn their cameras on. And so I know our faculty are eager to engage with you. And so we ask that you do that to the extent that it is possible. Speaking of that, I just want to remind everyone that all faculty are still required to have live office hours. And so that information is likely available for you in Blackboard. If you can't find it, just ask your faculty member, when and how those office hours are happening, because they absolutely are. And it's still a service that we find many students that's really beneficial for lots of students. So please take advantage of office hours, which are still happening. And I know, a lot of times I'll talk to students and I'll say, hey, it feels scary, but it's not, and faculty don't bite. But really now, even if they wanted to, they can't. So this is a great time to try out office hours if that's a new practice for you. Lastly, I just want to remind everyone that we do have, as the chancellor mentioned, a lot of amazing services, and they still exist. They've just moved into virtual space. And I believe somebody will in the chat, populate so you can find links to all these services. But CH2M, the STEM Tutoring Center, that opens next week virtually and will operate as usual. The Writing Center is also opening virtually next week. TRIO Student Support Services is up and running and doing great work as usual. The library is open virtually, and we'll make sure in the chat you can find the link to get to the library. You can still check out books. You can get support for how to track down scholarly articles and journals, help with research. Our virtual library is ready for your use. Academic advising is always a click away, so you can schedule time to meet with your advisor. You'll see information about that in the chat as well. We have virtual help desks that kind of function. If you're not sure where to go, just show up at a virtual help desk and we'll help you get where it is, get the information that you need, or help you kind of route you to the place where you need to be. And the access services is of course also up and running. You can contact Gretchen Hormel at the Student Access Center. She's the Student Access Center coordinator. So that's just a quick rundown I know I was talking fast, but you'll see all this information available to you in the chat. And we're glad to be back with you in class this fall. And thank you for tuning in today. So thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Dr. Clemens. To our students, what are some things that you have seen to be helpful based on your experiences online? Adriana, we'll go ahead and start with you first.
Okay, hello. Well, I've been a student for quite a while. I did running start here, and I'm currently in my senior year of mechanical engineering, so it's been a while. And one of the things that I've always found very important is finding a community between your classes and within your major and just other students, because that's what keeps you encouraged to study. Right now with online, it's a little different, but you can still totally do it. I did it last semester. You can just talk to other students in your class. You can, in Zoom, you can actually send private messages to individual people. Be like, hey, I seen you in this class for a while. You'd like to make study group, a virtual study group with me. And that's something you can do. I know for new students, it may be a little difficult that start that way, but for sure professors will give you more time. When you have like little, in your labs, when you have the time to meet other people on group sessions, just take that advantage of connecting with others, because that will really help you along the way. For upper classes, it's a little different because professors and we were in classmates know each other already, so that way it's a little different. But going out of your way and making a Zoom group meeting and just letting a bunch of your classmates join in for you to study, even if you're not talking, but if you have questions while you're studying for a test or just doing a homework, can be very helpful. This brings me in the next point. So also students have the ability to use Zoom on their own. You can create a Zoom meeting for clubs, for yourself, for a meeting with friends. It's very useful and anybody can use it. So that's part of the licenses that WSU bought. Now, one of the issues that comes with using the computer so much is that you need to control screen time. Yeah, you might be like, but everything is online now. Well, try to have times in the day when you're not using the screen. And if you need to, if you're starting having headaches and stuff, you can go and use things like blue light glasses that limits the blue light from the computer. That will eliminate your headaches. Lower the screen brightness when you can. There are many apps out there, and they're in your computer itself that you can also eliminate the blue light that your computer does. All these things will help you manage how much you're tired your eyes get. And in the long way, it will help a lot, so you don't need to be taking Tylenol and all that stuff. And just always attend to class. Even if you're tired, you're like, oh, it's going to be recorded, attend it. Because even if you're not paying full attention, being there helps. I know it's a little different since it's online, but just try to be there. It makes a whole difference, because you never know what you might catch then, and you can ask a question even if you are not fully into it. It's very important to just be there, and the professor knows you're there. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Adriana. Natalie, can you tell us about some things that have helped you out with classes so far?
Yeah, thank you, Robin. Using my resources is crucial to my academic success, especially with harder classes. Tutoring and the Writing Center can be immense help for help. They offer one-on-one tutoring centers, so don't be afraid to reach out. You can always email them to set up an appointment. Also, I like to check in with my professors. My professors want to help me and want to make sure that I'm doing okay, both academically and personally. So for for new students, that might be a little bit scary, but don't be. Your professors are there to help, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. On that note, we have some faculty that are part of our town hall today that can add some insight to how best connect with faculty online and provide some good tips for academic success. Let's start with Dr. Janet Peters. What would you say to students that might be nervous about reaching out or wondering the right way to approach faculty with help with their classes? And also, can you speak to some tips for creating communities where you can connect with fellow students through their classes?
Yeah, those are great questions. So one of the things that I think faculty absolutely love is when students come to office hours. And I know it's easy for me to say, hey, don't be scared of us, but the perception of that is so different. But coming to office hours is a huge bang for your buck. Honestly, what we can do in 10 minutes of individualized feedback and talking through questions that you have is well worth your time. I think you get a lot of return on investment there. The other thing about office hours that I just kind of want to emphasize is that that is time that we have set aside for you. You're not interrupting anything. You're not bothering us. Like, we are there to help you during that time. So we absolutely love it when you drop by, truly. We really do. So don't feel shy about that, or like you're invading some sort of space or time. We have set that aside to dedicated to you. So that's the first thing. If you can't make office hours, go ahead and shoot your faculty an email and just say, hey, I can't make it at this time because I have class or this other obligation. And faculty are pretty flexible about that. So also don't feel intimidated if the time doesn't always work for you. Other ways that you can connect with your faculty is, of course, via email. And I have two tips for that. One, let them know what class you're in. If they're teaching multiple classes, it might take them some time to track down. If you just say, hey, I don't know when the quiz is, they might not know which quiz for which class. So it's always helpful to us if you tell us when. But what's helpful to us, and I think to you, is when you do email, if you can say, hey, not just maybe I'm confused, but being specific and saying, hey, I'm working on the homework for, I don't know, I teach stats. So like, I'm working on the homework for standard deviations and I'm kind of stuck on problem number 3 where I don't know whether to use the population or the sample mean. That helps me help you super efficiently. So when you do email your faculty, my suggestion is always be specific about what it is that you need help with, because that's way easier for us to help with than just, I need help, or I'm confused, or I'm struggling. So there's that. Other ways to connect with your faculty or even your classmates, I would say, is engage in the technology. We have some new opportunities. You can use the chat function. So I monitor the chat function in my classes, and I love it when students ask questions, even if they don't. I mean, of course, I love it when you use your microphone, but even if you don't, I like it when you respond to my questions in the chat. The other thing I really appreciate is when students respond to each other. So sometimes a student will ask a question and another student will answer it. And I think that's a great way to sort of make it feel and build that community and make it feel like that class, is you can answer their questions, and you can also ask other students your questions in the chat. It's a great use of that sort of back channel. So definitely take advantage of that. I know people have mentioned the hand raising. Of course, you can do all of that. If your class has set up for discussion boards, use the discussion boards. Reaching out in those ways is absolutely wonderful. And then let's see if I want to. I guess the other tips I would say is to the best of your ability, use your camera. It is so nice seeing faces and putting faces to names, not just for your professor, but for your fellow students, building those relationships so that you can create study groups. As students, you can make your own Zoom study group. So I encourage you to do that. I think that's about all of my advice.
Thank you, Dr. Peters. So the next question is for Dr. Sweet. Speaking as a professor in the sciences, we've had some students that are a bit nervous about their labs for various science courses. Can you talk about how labs work for some of the classes that you teach, as well as what students can do if they're struggling in those courses?
Yeah, so faculty in the sciences have been spending a lot of time designing and redesigning their fall labs to meet course goals and to engage students in scientific inquiry in our new remote environment. And this new environment really has prompted new perspectives and new approaches, which is all really great. There are a great variety of ways in which labs kind of are being designed for this fall. And some of them include things like lab simulations, scientific analysis, take-home kits, video demonstrations, case studies, and in some select cases, even in-person activities. Students will find that there will also be a very familiar, live, synchronous component to these labs that also focus around teamwork. And so hopefully that will help them to maintain a schedule throughout the week and throughout the semester to keep them connected to that community. If students are struggling in their courses or specifically in lab classes, always reach out to your instructor. And that can be through email, through student hours, discussion boards. Your instructor is there to address your concerns, clarify information, provide extra guidance, or help you find other resources if you need additional resources outside of the course resources. If you're, nervous about attending student hours, maybe you're in a group in your lab, bring your whole group to the Zoom student hours or a classmate. That can get you over the nervousness. And once you feel comfortable, you may then go on your own. So it's important that you connect and communicate early and often with your instructors, and that can help you with those courses that maybe you're struggling in or just want a little extra support. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Dr. Sweet. Next, I have a question for Dr. Iannelli. As an engineering professor, what are some things that students can do to ensure that they're successful in more technical courses that would normally be offered in person? Like the sciences, there's lots of technical lab components that students will learn about this semester. So what is your advice for those areas? And also, can you talk about how the capstone engineering courses will work where there are still some on-hands components?
Thank you, Robin. Let me preface my advice by summarizing the nature of distance education. WSU Tri-Cities is delivering instruction in distance mode. This is different and superior to a mere online mode. The difference is that a distance mode education is enriched with live and enjoyable engagements that promote student involvement, discussions, and in the final analysis, empowerment of students, as if really these were an in-person interaction mode. So distance education mode is what WSU Tri-Cities offers, far superior to simply online. Considering that many engineering and science courses and labs rely on diagrams, complex calculations, demonstrations, and discussion of results, one of my pieces of advice to students is to please follow these distance education Zoom presentations exactly at the times when they are offered live, so that you will enjoy sharing the experience with your professors, with your classmates. Engineering and science classes are notoriously challenging. Well then, once again, all of you students will be successful in managing this challenging by remaining up to date. Follow your Zoom classes exactly at the time when they are offered live. And this is particularly important and helpful to maintain social connections precisely in these, speaking of challenges, challenging times of necessary social distancing. What I'm going to say next has already been said before, and rightfully so. We professors really like inquisitive students. We love to hear questions from students. So another recommendation that I would offer to students is to ask why as many times as needed to achieve complete understanding. And here are some examples of perfectly valid why questions. For example, in either a science or an engineering class, if a professor is solving a sample problem, then ask, why are we using this method? Why are we performing this particular calculation? Why are we seeking to determine this specific quantity instead of another one? Why is the solution process arranged this particular way? The main objective of asking these why questions, in essence, is to connect pieces of information with one another. When those connections are made, deeper understanding results. Ask a lot of questions and avoid feeling you would be interrupting. You wouldn't. All you have to do is to ask your questions that will actually be enriching your class. Just raise your hand. Well, within the virtual environment, just click on the blue little hand, wait to be recognized, and ask your questions. Ask as many questions as you have. And particularly in the engineering and science classes, also ask which fundamental principles support the given solution process. Ask for a summary of the sample problem that was just presented. Ask your professors for the top 2 or 3 concepts that the sample problem was supposed to demonstrate. So all of these questions in the final analysis achieve at least 2 purposes. You show your professor your interest, and at the same time, your knowledge becomes deeper and deeper and deeper. Because again, the greater the number of connections we are able to establish among principles that may seem disconnected, then the clearer your knowledge will become. And you must have experienced this already. Now, in terms of capstone projects that may have hands-on components, well, it turns out that the engineering capstone projects will also be completed in a distance education mode, with laboratory demonstrations being actually broadcast live from campus labs to student homes via Zoom. So the advice that I gave earlier directly applies to these capstone project labs as well. Follow these demonstrations live, remain up to date. If any of these projects would require fabrication or assemblage of parts, please discuss these matters with your professors. They will be very happy to assist you, and also very importantly, reach out to the engineering lab manager. His name is Steve Jordan. Now, to give you an example about what we can do in the virtual environment in respect of capstone projects, last spring it was sufficient for students to complete their capstone projects through detailed analysis and calculations without having to build a prototype. Well, it turns out that WSU Tri-Cities are excellent students. They are very innovative too. And some of them were quite inventive last spring. What they did was to secure some parts from one of those do-it-yourself stores. They built prototypes in their garages, and they were quite successful in addition to enjoying their experience. Let me be clear, this is not a recommendation, but just an example of how inventive our WSU Tri-City students, like all of you, really, really are. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Dr. Iannelli. For many courses, group work is still going to be a component of the class, which leads me to a question for Dr. Bravo. As a business professor, your students will likely work in teams to complete and strategize projects for their business courses, as they will for other degree programs and classes. How will that work this semester, and what advice do you have for students with group projects and those that require teamwork to complete?
Thanks, Robin. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, it looks like I'm unmuted. Yes, definitely. In my classes, there's going to be a lot of teamwork, especially during the live sessions, as well as the out of class times as well. For the most part, I'm utilizing Zoom breakout rooms. This week, I've taught a human resource management class where we had breakout rooms work on group exercises. I had a negotiations class where I had groups working together to strategize how they were going to negotiate against me for a class policy. And then in my ethics class, ethics teams and innovation class, I've had students get together in the Zoom breakout rooms to work on things such as group exercises or group quizzes. So for the most part, during the live session, we're going to do Zoom breakout rooms. And then I'm encouraging the students outside of the class time to also utilize Zoom. as some of the panel members have said, Zoom is available for students to use. They can set up their own little Zoom meetings. There's Zoom groups, study groups, if you will. So I'm encouraging them to use Zoom as well. However, I'm not opposed to students using any other platform that their whole team is comfortable with. So for example, I was talking with my son, who is also a college student at another university, but I won't name it. And he looked at me and he said, "Why don't you use Discord?" And I was like, "Well, what's Discord?" The point is, there's a lot of things out there that college students are using. And he told me that a lot of his classmates set up teams and set up social chat rooms to work on class projects through Discord. That's just one example. And I'm sure there are a lot of others. So I would suggest for the students to get as creative as possible. There is going to be opportunities to do group work within the class, within the live Zoom sessions, as well as outside of the Zoom sessions, and just get creative. And as long as you're connecting well and you're addressing the projects, run it past your professor, and things should be good. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Bravo. In general, what are some areas that students are struggling in, and what advice do you have for students? Let's start with Dr. Peters.
Thanks, Robin. So I would say what I've seen so far is this semester, boundaries are more fluid than they've ever been with courses. And usually the boundaries are a little bit more distinct, right? You get in your car and you drive to school, and when you're at school, and your laundry isn't sitting there and your bed's not sitting there. And those boundaries are now fluid. You don't have a commute, but it also can mean that sometimes you're trying to do, I see students trying to do multiple things at once. And sometimes that means they might mute their mic or camera and do laundry or work or clean, or they miss class for work. And I think that is one of the hard things, is that there aren't those distinct boundaries we've had before, which makes it tempting to try on. I think it makes it tempting for students to take bigger bites than they can reasonably chew. And so my biggest suggestion for students is, to the best of your ability, keep your boundaries distinct. You know, I know that's hard for some of you. You're sharing spaces, you're sharing technology, but if you can, right, have your workspace. And when you're in class and you're not cleaning or picking up. I think there's also some temptation with you're on your computer, so it's easy to check email or Reddit or social media while also being on. And the temptation, it's just so close in ways that are often less salient in face-to-face classes. So my biggest sort of tip is think about those boundaries and don't let school become out of sight, out of mind, because that can happen quickly. And so some of the ways that you can sort of leverage that is go into your Blackboard and look at your assignments and customize your Blackboard so that it's sending you reminders. Hey, you have an assignment due, 3 days, 2 days, you know, depending on what the assignment is, you might need more or less time. I use a Google Calendar and I make it remind me. So use some sort of calendar, Outlook, Gmail, whatever. Leverage your peers. I think Dr. Bravo mentioned, like, you can set up your own student groups. I see students use Slack, Microsoft Teams. I, similar to Dr. Bravo, don't care what students use, but having that little group, they can just text reminders. Hey, don't forget this homework is due. Hey, don't forget this is coming up. I see students get a lot of benefits from that. Let's see, what else I want to tell you. The other thing is, or I guess my biggest takeaway, if I could tell students like one thing, it would be attend the synchronous lectures. Don't let those slip behind. Don't take on other work saying, oh, well, I can do this later. It becomes a pretty slippery slope. So that would be the biggest thing, my biggest recommendation. And of course, as always, reach out to faculty, peers, etc. I think we all, in my experience so far, we've all been in it together. Students have been amazing and gracious and patient, and I've seen faculty be amazing and gracious and patient. And I think that if you let someone know, hey, I'm having difficulty here, whether that's with class, whether it's with food scarcity, right, and using the Cougar Cupboard, we just have some amazing resources. And I know Student Affairs is going to talk about that, but reach out.
Thank you, Dr. Peters. How about you, Dr. Bravo? What are some additional areas where you can offer some advice?
So I think a lot of the panel members are saying it over and over again, and I'm going to repeat it. Two of the things that I think are going to be very important going forward in this particular situation that we find ourselves in are communication and flexibility, right? Both faculty and students have to be as communicative as possible with each other. Reach out to me, I reach out to you, I send reminders. I think I find myself sending some reminders here and there more than I had in the past because I can easily say something in class, but now I understand we're in a virtual world, so I'll send reminders. Don't hesitate to ask questions for clarification, and do not hesitate to reach out if some obstacles come up that require attention. And those obstacles, can come at any moment. Flexibility, like I said, is going to be very important. Both students and faculty will have things come up with many that will require adjustments, either adjustments to the syllabus or adjustments to the time, whether it involves technology issues or some other unforeseen situation. All parties involved really need to realize that certain adjustments need to be made at times, or will need to be made at times. So flexibility is going to be really important. So communication and flexibility. Also, as has been said before, approaching this online world as structured as possible. It's very easy to get caught up in, hey, now this is all online. I can pick up some extra work. I can pick up an extra shift. I know it's, a lot of people are in need of financial help at this time, but if you've signed up for this class, please, you really do have to try to make the live sessions. They're there for you. They're there for you to learn. And not just from the faculty, learning from your fellow students. Everybody, especially in the classes that I teach, we talk about things such as, workplace issues. Mostly everybody works. So we really feed off of each other, off of each other's anecdotes, off of each other's experiences. So those live sessions really bring out what human resource management is about, what negotiations is about, all the classes that I teach really. So it is really important. Some classes such as mine will use a hybrid setup where one day you'll meet synchronously online with your professor, and then another time you'll have your own time to navigate the asynchronous component of the class. But I can't reiterate enough, try to create some sort of structure that you will stick to when you're working asynchronously. It's real easy to do it kind of when you're, synchronously, but when you're left to your own devices, really try to create some structure for yourself, and you'll find out that that's going to help you throughout the semester. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Bravo. Dr. Sweet, how about you? What advice can you offer?
Thanks, Robin. So again, like other panelists were mentioning, I'm going to reiterate some of the same things they already said. And one place that I have found that students seem to be struggling this semester is in knowing what they're supposed to be doing and when they're supposed to be doing it. And to help clear that up, again, the communication piece is really important. So asking your instructor, your peers, communicating with them. It's important for clarifying what's going on in class and staying connected as a community. But the other thing is you also want to communicate things that are working really well in the class too. That can be helpful information, and you can expand on certain areas that seem to be working really well if we hear from our students. And we also can adjust things. So when students let us know that a particular assignment maybe is unclear, a lot of us are using new digital resources, new technology. And so the plan that we set in place maybe doesn't come across as clear as we had intended. Your feedback is really important for adjusting and making things more clear. We have to use different cues to let us know where we should be going and how we should be clarifying things. So I'm just going to reiterate the communication part to help clear things up. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Dr. Sweet. And how about you, Dr. Iannelli?
Thank you, Robin. And as it has happened before, I'm going to echo what the other panelists have mentioned. Communication, communication, communication. It's so very important. We need to know, we are eager to know how you students are progressing so that we can best assist you whenever you need help. My experience has been that some students have struggled sometimes with their motivation to attend classes. Others may need greater clarity about expectations, whereas some other students may have experienced difficulties in completing assignments on their own. It is likely that many of these struggles are related to a sense of isolation the students may feel. It is totally understandable. Most people would feel exactly the same way. Again, we are all here to support students. And it turns out that any WSU Tri-Cities colleague, not just professor, any colleague is as close as an email message or a telephone call and really eager and happy to assist. Reach out to them. They would love it. Also, do develop a schedule of activities, students, like class times and other obligations. And most importantly, once you have developed that schedule, follow it as if you were on campus, managing class, after meeting, after study periods, after another class as well. Whenever you anticipate having to miss some classes or being unable to meet due dates for assignments, it is all right. Reach out to your professors just as soon as possible. Let them know your situation. They will be happy you communicated with them, and they will show a sympathetic understanding, and they will be happy to work with you. I know that I will. Again, in terms of echoing the excellent advice that has already been given, all of your courses offer office hours. Those are your hours. Times when your professors are guaranteed to be available to meet with you. Avail yourselves of these golden opportunities to engage your professors, ask additional questions, seek clarifications, discuss topics, solve sample problems, you name it. These are all activities that in the final analysis will allow you to deepen your knowledge and progress towards academic success. And you know what? Your tuition is contributing to the availability of these resources. So do enjoy and benefit from your own investment and seek the greatest return from your investment. Meet with your professors regularly. They will be happy that you reached out to them. Our mission is our students' success. I know that we will be victorious in accomplishing this mission together. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Dr. Iannelli. Our discussion on academics raises some good points about the importance of having and finding a good quiet place to study and good connection with Wi-Fi too. We know that these two things can be challenging for some students, but options are available. From Student Affairs, Ian, can you talk about some resources available to students from the Office of Student Affairs that will help to ensure student success in the classroom?
Thanks, Robin. So first and foremost, I just want to say that the Office of Student Affairs are here to support you with all the services that we are always sharing with you. So they're just now being done virtually for the most part. So every member of the Student Affairs team, whether that be financial aid, career services, access services, we're all using the Microsoft Booking software. So this software allows students to schedule a meeting with any one of us to cover whatever topics you need, any concerns, any questions that you may have. So you're welcome to check all of our websites to find the links to get to those bookings, as well as the various resources that are needed from us. Another piece that we know that you all as students are going to see that this virtual environment might also highlight are some concerning behavior from your fellow Cougs. You might be in a conversation via class or with a friend where your friend shares with you that they are having some challenges with mental health, or that they're unable to make some of their necessary purchases, be that food or rent or whatnot. Or just you see some concerning behaviors on a Zoom call or in class. So we want to remind you that we encourage you to submit a Cougar Cares form on their behalf or on your own behalf if you're struggling. This form goes to a team of professionals in student affairs and broader that review the information and reach out to the student for support. And so that's again one of those resources that are always there. We've always had, but it still is in place, and we want to make sure that you're prepared and successful this year.
Thank you for sharing those resources, Ian. As a student myself, I highly encourage students to access each of these programs, or if you need items and resources, we're here, and I highly encourage you to reach out. Next, a question for our student participants. Can you talk about the resources that you have accessed and how they have been helpful to you? Let's start with Natalie.
Thank you. One of the most important and I think helpful resources that I have accessed has been talking to, I guess, fellow students that work within student affairs or Sept, and also the career services component of it. I think that if you are looking for an internship, especially during these times, they would be an excellent place to start looking. I would talk to Christine or Jeremy if you have any questions regarding career services, or maybe recently they did a panel with some employees, and one of the major questions was, how do I set up an interview and how do I dress or behave for an online interview? So if you have questions like that, I would definitely suggest going to the Career Service Center to talk about some of the things that might be worrying you about the future and employment.
Thank you, Natalie. And for Adriana, what are some resources that you've accessed and found most helpful?
Well, I have really used to staying involved has really helped me mentally. Participating in clubs, I'm still participating. I'm a student worker. That has really helped me a lot to feel more normal and staying engaged and knowing about the university is really something that has helped me a lot. I've also communicated with professors. I emailed them, hey, I just finished working 60 hours a week. Can you please give me a week to catch up and I'll be on track? And staying connected with my classmates has been doing as much participating in events that are going on. I am part of trios and student support services, so I follow them on Instagram and I see what's going on. During the summer, there were a couple. Sept Student Training Board had a couple like competitions through Instagram, so I participated in those, and you could see other people's comments about it. It was really nice. Staying involved has really been a huge part of my mental health because staying positive during the semester. So that's what I used.
Thank you, Adriana. So amid the pandemic, lots of people have been feeling siloed. So in addition to study groups, what are some other resources that are available to students to help with mental health and social support? Sylvia, can you talk a little bit about mental health resources that are available to students if they're feeling lonely, depressed, or struggling in any way? And also, can you talk about a few ways that students can cope during these stressful times?
It'd be my pleasure. Thank you. So what I would like to highlight, it has to do with the pandemic information first, tips on how to cope with this. I'm going to include 7 tips, and then I'll move on to the resources that the Counseling Services Office is going to be offering this semester. As everyone knows, there are many different reactions and responses that we can have during the coronavirus pandemic. This could include physical and emotional responses that you might be experiencing for the first time or with the different intensity that you felt before. Given that we are starting the academic semester, these emotions or reactions could amplify. As these reactions can impact you both physically and mentally, it's important to bring awareness to your reactions in order to understand and how to cope with them. So the 7 tips that I've included, students listening, you don't need to write them down. They will be included on our website very shortly here. So just be attentive and listen. Stay informed. So it's important to find a balance between staying informed and protecting yourself from the overload of information in the news and the media. It may be helpful to set up time limits to check the news, for instance, an hour a day if that feels okay to you. And find non-sensationalization, news that isn't going to provoke any stress reaction. It's okay if these limits need to change. Perhaps your initial time limit ends up leading to a heightened anxiety. Be attentive to that and be aware in order for you to reduce it. Additionally, try to avoid exposing yourself to news during the evening when your brain is winding down and you're preparing for bed. The second tip that I have is be attentive. Pay attention to your internal reactions during this time. As you bring increased awareness to your emotional and physical responses, you can get important information about what you need in order to cope with each feeling or sensation. For example, if you're noticing your anxiety is increasing, it's important to note that what happened right before the increase in anxiety. Example given, perhaps looking at the news. You then can decide what choices might decrease your anxiety, like reducing how much time you spend reading the news, or perhaps, engaging in a stress reduction, mindfulness-based relaxation that will also be included on our website shortly. The third tip is developing a routine. I know we've talked about some very good tips for academic hygiene. This is more of a mental health hygiene. Establishing a supportive routine can help both your mind and body during times of stress. This includes maintaining a consistent schedule. For sleeping, eating, moving your body, and socializing. Sticking to a routine can help create a sense of normalcy and control. Also, we've talked about staying connected to your classmates, to professors, to community. This is a resilience building opportunity, and I encourage everybody to connect in this time of uncertainty. The fourth tip is redefine. So perhaps, we have been celebrating birthdays, historically, or there's events that we like to celebrate. Due to the virus, obviously those plans are going to have to change. Recognizing and accepting that this will have an impact on you and your community is a part of the process to help redefine what comes next. This could mean coming up with unique ways to celebrate with friends, staying connected, and starting to let go of previous plans. I think by the end of this, it's all safe to say we're probably going to be professionals at Zoom. Speaking of monitoring social media, examine your social media usage. This could increase anxiety. So be aware of how much media you're being exposed to, and be cautious about checking these sites before bed to help mitigate that risk. The sixth tip I have, keep perspective. The coronavirus is a health concern that is being taken seriously by WSU Tri-Cities and our public health officials. It's important to not let your worry about the virus take control of your life. Work on creating new routines and recognize what you can and can't control. This obviously applies to your academic life as well. Please reach out to your professors or counseling services if you do feel that you're struggling with those things. The seventh and final tip I have, extending compassion. Extend compassion to yourself and your community. Remember that COVID-19 doesn't recognize race, nationality, or ethnicity. Wearing a mask does not mean a person is ill. I encourage everybody to disrupt this stigma by sharing accurate information and speaking up if you hear misinformation in a safe way. You can always report discrimination to our office. If you have any concerns, we will gladly follow up. We want you to feel supported in this time, and we also know that this is a challenging time for everyone. I know that it was already communicated, but flexibility is a resilient practice also. If you do feel that you're trying to cope as well as you can, however, something is still not feeling great, go with your gut. That might be time to seek professional help. Here at the Counseling Services Center, we are here to support you in your mental health and behavioral health concerns. Given that we are synchronous, we're doing telemental health over this semester. So we will be providing one-on-one counseling services by appointment. We also have a 24-hour over the phone telemental health behavioral health services. Their name is Protocol. This again will be online and available for every student to use. So please, I encourage you to do that. Over the semester, please keep tuned to the website. We're going to be loading it with a lot of helpful resources, a lot of information that will hopefully help students cope with this virtual online distance experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia. I would highly encourage students to check out these resources and utilize these coping tips. You don't have to be in a dire mental state or have an extreme emergency. These are just resources to help students wherever they're at with their mental health. So outside of academic and support services, even though we can't meet in person, there's still lots of opportunities for students to get together online and to get to know their peers. Ian, can you talk about some of the fun and engaging activities and experiences that are available to students this fall?
Robin, I'd love to. So I have a couple that I'd like to highlight, and then maybe there'll be some others, individuals on the panel that would like to highlight some as well. The couple that I want to talk about are the Student Entertainment Board's Coug Packs, what we're going to expect from our student organizations this fall, and then Coug Presents, which is going to be an exciting platform coming here at the end of fall and into spring, and then the Connected Cougs newsletter. So first off, the program that hopefully all of you have heard about and have already signed up for is the Student Entertainment Board Coug Pack. So this is a virtual activity where all students can sign up to receive 1 to 3 activity packs that contain all you will need to participate and connect virtually with your peers. Packs range from art projects to barbecue supplies to working out and more. So these packs are available and students can still select them until tomorrow. So that's an important one. Sign up. So tomorrow is the deadline, and you can sign up on the Student Entertainment Board website or via their social media. As far as student organizations this year, so we still have a variety of student organizations that have already started meeting this semester. So if you're interested in participating, finding out which ones are active this year, or if you're interested in starting your own student organization, you can go to the Student Engagement and Leadership website, or reach out to Evelyn Martinez, the Assistant Director for Student Engagement and Leadership, and find out what they're doing, what programs are coming up. Our student organizations are finding creative ways to still host those annual programs that we all love, as well as do some of their traditional programming and activities and just those group meetings over various ways. Like was mentioned earlier, finding those different platforms, whether it be Discord or Slack or whatnot, to still stay connected and engage. The next is called Coug Presence. So Coug Presence is our new student engagement platform that will be coming to you soon. So formerly, this was known as Coug Sync for those that have been around for a little while. And we'll be launching that later this year for all the different ways to engage as a student through various office involvements, departmental engagement, as well as student organizations here at WSU Tri-Cities. Finally, just want to mention that our office, the Office of Student Engagement and Leadership, along with many other organizations and offices, will be hosting additional student events throughout this semester virtually. So in order to find out what those are going to be and when they will be happening and get those Zoom links and whatnot, please read your Connected Cougs newsletter that comes out to students every Monday. Between that newsletter and social media, those are the ways that we will be communicating. As has been mentioned by every panelist pretty much so far, communication is going to be extremely important. And so reading those newsletters and checking out social media is going to be extremely important. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, so I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the organization that I'm a part of. So ASWSU-TC, your student government, we're going to continue to host engagement and feedback sessions throughout the year. Be sure to follow us on social media at ASWSU-TC. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. This is where we're going to convey most of our information this semester. And if you're interested in working with us, please reach out and you can send me an email. Natalie and Adriana, the two students on this panel, are also members of ASWSU-TC. So yeah, we would love to have you. Also, we're in the middle of a special election right now. Students are going to be able to vote next week to fill some additional senator positions so that they can represent you. And next, I'll hand it off to Natalie to talk about the Mosaic Center for Student Inclusion.
Yeah, so the Mosaic Center for Student Inclusion is a hub focusing on diverse cultures, equity, and both our similarities and our differences. Our Mosaic Center for Student Inclusion will host a range of student activities, presentations, discussions, and celebrations throughout the year. Be sure to follow along with the Connected Cougs student letter for more information.
Thanks, Natalie. Adriana, what are some clubs and organizations that you're a part of, and how can students join those clubs?
So I am actually part of currently 3 clubs. So the ASME, which is Association of Mechanical Engineers, Robotics Club, which is Robotics Club as the name says, and I participate on the Dreamers Club. Basically, what I do to know when they meet is that first, if I know who the officers are, I stay connected with them, just asking them when things are. Second, I check out the social medias or the student life because they tend to have the information there for when student clubs are going to start meeting. And third is that I also try to just be aware of all the emails that I'm getting, because many times they want to send mass emails to all the students so they can see what's going on. And this week I got one from the Makers Club, I got one from the Coding Cougs, and they all said when they were meeting and had the links for the Zoom meetings for them. So that's a good place to watch out where you can find clubs. And soon enough, you're gonna see videos that all of us clubs made to introduce ourselves to you.
Thank you, Adriana. Yeah, there's definitely lots of ways to get involved, even though we're virtual this semester. Natalie, can you talk about some of your favorite parts about your student experiences at WSU Tri-Cities?
Yeah, so far, my student experience has been great, and I don't expect that to change, even though we are remote. I am a big believer of having fun in unprecedented and difficult situations. So some of my favorite things about my student experience has been the sense of community I have built within my organizations. I'm part of ASWTDC, the Mosaic Center, Trio, Cougs, and the Cougs Lead Club. So yeah, and additionally, I think that one of the things that has increased my sense of community has been the events that I have attended through the university and the memories that I have made.
Thank you, Natalie. So yeah, speaking from my experience in ASWSU TC, as well as working with other student organizations and student events and engagement, there's a lot of great opportunities out there to get involved and contribute something back to campus and the community and to meet new people. So that about rounds out our time for today. So I know we've talked about a slew of resources and tips for students, and I know it can be very hard to keep track of. So because of this, we'll be sending an email to all students with most of this information tomorrow. I would also encourage students to reach out to their professors, staff members, myself, or any other member of campus. We're here to help you, and we want to see you succeed. We also want it to be a fun year. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and now I'll hand it off to Chancellor Sandra Haynes to provide her closing remarks.
Well, I don't have much more to say after that because you said it all. We are here for you. We want to help you. We want to support you. We want to make you successful in your academics and beyond. So as everybody has said tonight, reach out to us, take care of yourselves, engage in your academics, engage in whatever we have to offer you virtually. I know that Robin is a tremendous student leader, and he'll be more than happy to help you find your way in student activities. Reach out to him, reach out to me, reach out to Ian, reach out to any of us that have been on the panel tonight. Reach out to your professors, take advantage of our availability to you. We are so committed to your success, even if it looks a little different than it may have last fall. So take care of yourselves in this, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs, the party has started. Let's do it.